Hello, my name is Marcus Ruiz Evans. I'll be your host for today's piece of information. Well, this article today is called How National Divorce Fits Along Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Points Hypothesis, MLK's Four-Step Scale to Success, and Gandhi's Four-Step Scale to Success. Well, let's get right into it. We here at Yes California on October 28th said that national divorce is going mainstream because the system had responded with an argument against national divorce by a well-known conservative, Rich Lowry of the National Review, in his article, National Divorce is a Poisonously Stupid Idea, published on October 10th. We had said that the concept about national divorce had gone beyond Calexit because two well-known conservatives responded back to Rich Lowry's criticisms of national divorce, and that during the time of Calexit, criticisms against Calexit went into a void, and there was no one to respond to them. Now we see criticisms against the topic of national divorce, but different from Calexit is that people are actually responding back. That activates what MLK said was the step 2 of his 4-step process to success. So, moving beyond the success of Calexit, two well-known conservatives have responded back to Rich Lowry's criticisms of national divorce. Michael Malice on October 11th in an article called Dissecting National Review's article against national divorce. Brian McClanahan on October 20th with Rich Lowry doesn't like secession. And now we can add a third famous conservative who responded back to Rich Lowry's criticism, Brian McMaken of the Mises Institute on October 28th in an article titled 3 Reasons to Start Taking Secession Seriously. McMaken, McClanahan, and Malice are all three well-known conservatives who are respected for their thoughts on conservative ideas. All of them have accepted Lowry's arguments against national divorce, and all three have argued against Lowry's points. This qualifies as what we have noted as Martin Luther King's second step in the 4-step process to success. So, first was identifying the issue. Second was negotiation with the opposition. Third was self-purification. And the fourth one was actual activism. We're saying that the concept of national divorce is in MLK's second phase, negotiation. This qualified as what we have noted as the second part in the 4-step process as outlined by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in his famous letter from a Birmingham city jail. He said that when two sides, the group in power and the activists, agree to what the problem is, that you have actually started the negotiation phase and that now the conflict can begin. Both sides may not agree with each other on how to solve the conflict, but they have agreed to what the conflict is. The ability to redefine the conflict or change it is closed. That means people now have to take sides. So when you had an open debate on what people are arguing about and it's shifting around, it's very amorphous. The moment an opposition, the system says, here's the problem, and the opposition agrees that's the problem, you actually have some sort of commonality, serendipity. Both sides have agreed to this is what the issue is. That means that nobody can jump in and redefine the issue. They have now made two camps, and now everybody has to split and fall into one of those two camps. This is why MLK said this is the start of the conflict. But there are even more developments with this quickly evolving national discussion on national divorce. David French, another well-known conservative, also jumped into this debate and backed up the establishment author Rich Lowry of the National Review. David French wrote in The Great American Divorce on October 29th, yesterday, where he took up Rich Lowry's criticism of national divorce being discussed by saying that it's, quotes, impossible to split this country without a civil war because of its demographic lines. David French was pointing to the Richard Lowry argument that there are conservative states with liberals in them and liberal states with conservatives in them, and that you could never have a national divorce because you have to pull these minority groups out of the states, and so therefore you can never peacefully separate. French also backed up a second Lowry system counterpoint against national divorce by saying that if America allowed national divorce, it would be the end of the shining example for democracy that America sets for the entire world. That's two of the major counterpoints that Lowry made against national divorce, backed up by David French. We want to double down our conclusion that the discussion around national divorce is at the MLK negotiation phase, given that two, now three conservatives are agreeing to debate a certain set of counterpoints, and that the speaker representing the system arguments against national divorce was joined by another famous conservative, meaning there are now two well-known conservatives speaking for the system against three well-known conservatives. This qualifies as MLK's negotiation stage, and because you had well-known conservatives responding to the attack, it means that the concept of national divorce has now gone to a level of evolution beyond Cal-Exit and what we were able to achieve. But here's another thing to note. On the same day that I made the estimation that the topic of national divorce has gone mainstream, Ryan McMaken came to the exact same conclusion on the exact same day. We do not consult. Let's take a look at what McMaken said. Quote, meanwhile, members of Congress, including Iowa's Stephen Holt, I didn't know that, and Georgia's Marjorie Taylor Greene, which we've covered a lot here, now openly speak of secession. They wouldn't say this if they didn't think their constituents agreed with them. Moreover, we might measure the growth of the secessionist position by the number of pundits who now feel the need to condemn it. Once upon a time, secession was regarded as so out there that it scarcely deserved any attention at all. No longer. Nowadays, conservative Beltway pundits feel the need to go on rants about it on Fox News, end quote. Because mainstream people who would never talk about this issue before are even mentioning it, like sitting Congress members, because the news that used to regard this as silly talk is now seriously angry at this topic, proves that the conversation has reached a new plateau of seriousness and gravitas never before seen in American history. That's what Ryan McMaken said, and that's literally what I said on the same day without consulting him. But also we need to point out another point that McMaken said that we've also made. Because the system is so angry, and that's why it's attacking so hard, means that you're closer to success than ever before. McMaken is channeling, perhaps unconsciously in a capacity, the Gandhi four-step process. It said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. McMaken's saying they're fighting, they're attacking. Now maybe he's not aware of the Gandhi four-step process, but he is placing us in the fight stage on the Gandhi four-step process. But before we go, I need to make an additional point. You know, Malcolm Gladwell was one of the most famous sociologists here in America, and he wrote a book called Tipping Points, which talked about how ideas go from conception to fruition. One of the things that he zeroed in on, and has been the most controversial takes, was what he called the law of the few. Namely, that all ideas go from concept to actually happening because three types of personalities get involved. If you can find all three of these types involved in your idea, it will be connected and actually go from idea to implementation. So he identifies three personalities that he says are key for any idea to take hold. Let's take a look at that now. The first personality type that Gladwell talks about is called a connector. Quote, connectors are the people in a community who know large numbers of people and who are in the habit of making introductions. A connector is essentially the social equivalent of a computer network hub. Lowry, with the National Review, had his article reprinted in Politico, a total opposite political spectrum magazine from National Review. Lowry, National Review, well-known, article reprinted in Politico, complete opposite spectrum, and then that same article, as we've talked about, reprinted in 30 local newspapers around America. That qualifies as a connector. The second person that Gladwell talked about were mavens. Now, mavens are, quote, information specialists or people we rely upon to connect us with new information. They accumulate knowledge, especially about the marketplace, and know how to share it with others. A maven is someone who wants to solve other people's problems, generally by solving their own. McMaken, Malice, McClanahan offer their opinion on new problems and are famous for making people in their networks aware. So these three conservatives who responded to Lowry qualify as mavens. They're information specialists. They're aware of things. And they're famous because they make their readers aware of things. And what they talk about is problems and offer solutions. They're mavens. That's the second of the three character types Gladwell said you need to achieve a tipping point of an idea. Finally, the last one is salesmen. Salesmen, quote, are persuaders. They are charismatic people with powerful negotiation skills. They tend to have an indefinable trait that goes beyond what they say, which makes others want to agree with them. Glenn Beck is a salesperson. When he talked about national divorce, people said, did you see Glenn Beck covering this? Sarah Silverman had the same effect. When Sarah Silverman talked about national divorce, people said, did you see Sarah Silverman claiming this? So we have connectors who are people who can get an idea out to a lot of people. Rich Lowry, with the National Review, had his article reprinted in Politico and then 30 newspapers. Then we have mavens, who are information specialists, and they like to solve problems and make sure that all sorts of people get information. McClanahan, Malice, and McMaken all have their 3 networks and all about informing people, and all took on the topic of national divorce, opposing Rich Lowry and David French. Salespeople are famous people who are just charming as hell. And when they say something, everybody talks about it and says, well, maybe we should look into that idea, simply because they talked about it. That's Glenn Beck and Sarah Silverman. So as you can see, under Malcolm Gladwell's tipping points, the law of the few, we have achieved the 3 characters that you need to have an idea go to fruition. And we are in stage 2 of the 4-step Gandhi process, negotiation. And we are in stage 3, the 4-step MLK process, called negotiation. Looking into the facts, negotiation, self-purification, and activism. We are in the 2nd step, negotiation, according to MLK. In the Gandhi 4-step process of they laugh at you, they ignore you, they fight you, and then you win, we are in stage 3, where they are fighting you, leading up to winning. McMaken also came to the same conclusion, that we're in the fight stage. And McMaken also came to the same conclusion that because so many people are talking about this, we've now gone mainstream. So we have all 3 of the personalities it takes for an idea to achieve the tipping point, according to Malcolm Gladwell, the sociologist. We're in the negotiation phase, where the conflict starts, according to MLK, and we are in the fight stage, right before you win, according to Gandhi. Now, while this is all speculative, given the conversation about national divorce blowing up like no one's ever seen it before, and the fact that in this analysis we can line it up with insights from Gladwell, King, and Gandhi, it does appear the concept of national divorce has finally achieved full-blown mainstream acceptance. Thank you. I'm your host, Marcus Ruiz Evans.